got beat up, he just got beat down. You know, he would have got knocked out had the fight have gone on longer, but he didn't. Like I say, timely.
Fabio Wardley triggers the immediate rematch clause for Daniel Dubois. If we get it this year, good luck to Fabio Wardley. I like you. I like him as a person. I like him as a fighter. I really do think this is a bad idea.
I decided to pick him and decided to fight him, so that was up to me. That was my option. So whether, again, now I choose to give him a rematch, that's on me as well. I know the fans will call for it. I know a lot of people will want to see it. And there's things in that fight I'd like.
Versus Daniel Dubois. They are running it back. Fabio Wardley has activated the rematch clause.
Boxing pros slam Fabio Wardley for demanding rematch and warn him not to fight Daniel Dubois. Fabio Wardley pushing for a rematch is being heavily questioned by experts who believe he is walking straight back into danger. Analysts warn he already took serious punishment, and stepping in again with Daniel Dubois could end the same way or even worse, with another brutal stoppage defeat.
Yeah, look, I'm not one to cry over what's done and what's dusted and ticked off. It's not going to change anything. If I start whinging about it, if I start moaning at the refs, they're not going to change their scorecard. So it is what it is. Ultimately, I always put the blame on myself. I should have done more in the fight to make it more.
Derek Chisora doesn't hold back here, saying Wardley had no jab, nothing, and was just swinging for power shots. It's a harsh breakdown of a fighter ignoring basics and relying on brute force. Against someone like Daniel Dubois, that approach gets exposed fast, and a rematch could end even worse.
Fabio was not ready for boxing. You don't jab, nothing, looking for power shots. It's like he didn't train. He was busy commentating. Little bastard. He was supposed to fucking train in the gym. Dude, how many jabs did Fabio chuck? Less jabs. He didn't chuck no jabs. He didn't do anything with him.
Spencer Oliver points out that Wardley activating the rematch clause isn't surprising, but he questions the mindset behind it. He suggests Wardley doesn't chase easy nights. He actually thrives in chaos, even when fights get messy and dangerous. That's exactly why a rematch with Daniel Dubois could be even more brutal, because Wardley seems to drag himself into wars where technical discipline gets tested to the absolute limit.
Am I shocked that he's activated the rematch clause? Absolutely not. Fabio Wardley has talked about not wanting longevity within the sport, getting in there, having the big names, having the big fights, unifications, and then getting out. You know, he's a 31.
Doesn't he need a break?
No,
Doesn't he need a physical break? 4 of his last 5 fights have been wars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doesn't he just needs to sit on the couch, put your feet up, let the kids run around, the missus brings you breakfast, and do nothing?
Let me flip it. Do you think that Fabio Wardley, with his style, could be involved in a fight that doesn't turn out to be a tough one? I think he makes an easy fight a tough one, because that's sort of like what's...
Dev Sahani highlights Wardley's mentality of wanting the biggest, most dangerous challenges, and how that earned him respect even in defeat. He didn't avoid Dubois, he ran straight back toward him knowing the risk. That attitude sounds brave, but it also raises questions about damage and survival. If he insists on doing things the hard way again, Dubois will be ready to punish every mistake even harder this time.
Yeah, let me just chill, let me just relax a little bit, and he didn't do that. He was like, bring me Daniel Dubois, he's the most dangerous, hard-hitting guy out there who's available, let me fight him, let me go get my respect. And he did that, and I love that. So if he's got the opportunity to now get the rematch with Daniel Dubois, he's going to take it, because he does things the hard.
Liam Goff lays out the facts of the rematch situation, confirming Wardley has triggered the clause after a brutal night where both men went through knockdowns and chaos. It's framed like a straightforward boxing update, but the context makes it heavier. This isn't just paperwork, it's a return to a fight where Wardley already took serious punishment, and now is heading straight back into the same danger with Dubois waiting.
Fabio Wardley has triggered a rematch clause for an immediate rematch with WBO heavyweight champion Daniel Dubois. Wardley survived 2 early knockdowns, or Dubois survived 2 early knockdowns to dethrone fellow Brit Wardley with an 11th round stoppage in Manchester on Saturday. Both fighters assigned to Queensbury and promoted by Frank Warren. He confirmed that after the bout there was a rematch clause. The boxing world, this is from Fabio.
The Wade Plemons gives a much darker view of Wardley's condition, pointing out how badly he was staggering and suggesting he was close to being completely gone in there. He praises his toughness but calls it almost reckless survival rather than skill. Against a puncher like Dubois, that kind of damage adds up fast, and a rematch could push Wardley into even more dangerous territory than before.
Down. I mean, this got to a point where Fabio is stumbling around. He's not even aware of his surroundings, it doesn't look like. The doctors are checking on him round after round. And, you know, I said Daniel had big stones to get off the canvas. Fabio Wardley's got a chin of iron because he ate some absolute nukes. Shots that put Anthony Joshua on the floor from Daniel Dubois and probably would have put a lesser man in the hospital that night. I mean, I'm sure Fabio's in the hospital now, but stretcher job.
Dominic Ingley questions whether Wardley should even continue boxing after the punishment he has taken in these fights. He argues Wardley has achieved a lot, but hasn't shown he can beat a reigning elite champion at the top level. The concern is long-term damage, not just one loss. If he goes back into a rematch with Dubois, it raises serious doubts about how much more punishment his career can realistically handle.
A slight difference, fighting a world champion, a legitimate world champion for a title, and beating a world champion who's already a world champion. And Fabio Wardley hasn't beat a current world champion to be the champion, has he?
Joseph Parker has been a champion.
Yeah, but he wasn't the champion,
No.
right. So
Barry McGuigan is extremely direct here, saying Wardley simply shouldn't take the rematch because of how much punishment he has already absorbed. He doesn't soften it at all, describing the damage as severe and suggesting that continuing in this direction is genuinely dangerous for his long-term health. When a former world champion speaks this strongly, it adds weight to the concern around Wardley stepping straight back into a fight with Daniel Dubois.
I don't think he should fight. I genuinely don't think he should take that rematch. I think that's too dangerous. I genuinely think he took way too much punishment, and that was so severe. If I were him, I'd never fight again.
Carl Froch breaks down Wardley's performance with a technical but critical eye, pointing out how he abandoned the fundamentals and relied too heavily on crude power shots. He suggests Wardley looked green in key moments, especially when he was swinging from out of range instead of setting up attacks properly. Froch also questions the corner instructions, implying basic errors were never corrected during the fight. The overall tone is that Wardley still has talent, but at elite level, raw aggression without structure gets exposed fast, especially against someone as precise and dangerous as Daniel Dubois.
He neglected all of his little bit of boxing skill, what he's learned over the white collar and through the fights that he's been involved in. I mean, he's had a fantastic career, and I don't think this is the end of Fabio Wardley at all, but he showed that he's a bit naive and a bit green. Like I said, his attacks were very crude. I don't know what Ben Davison should have been telling him. Stop throwing that overhand right from out of range. He's looking for the knockout punch. He's not even got his feet in range.
Johnny Nelson explains how Wardley started the fight well, using his jab and movement effectively, but gradually lost control once things stopped working. He highlights the key issue being the lack of a plan B, meaning once his original approach failed, his structure completely fell apart. From round 6 onward, Nelson says Wardley's shape disappeared and he began reacting rather than boxing. That kind of breakdown at elite level is costly, especially against a finisher like Dubois, where losing composure mid-fight often leads directly to punishment and stoppage situations.
The first half of the fight, he kept his shape. You know, the jabs were working, dominating head to body. Kept slinging that big right hand over the top. Now and again, he's whipping up the middle. He had good feet for a big guy, good feet. And I thought, you look the part. But then there was no plan B that he could rely on if that didn't work. And you saw from round 6, he lost his shape. The shape had gone because there was no plan B. You know, when he'd get hit, it was like he'd completely turned. And trust me, this boy's got no coward in him.
Frank Warren reflects on the fight as a dramatic and unforgettable heavyweight battle, praising both men for their resilience and ability to recover from adversity. He describes it as a fight where both fighters showed heart, got off the canvas, and pushed through exhaustion in a way that made it a spectacle to watch. While the praise is high, the context still matters, because those kinds of wars often leave lasting effects. The admiration for bravery is clear, but so is the reminder that fights like this take something out of both Wardley and Dubois physically and mentally.
I said it, don't blink, it's going to be the most amazing few rounds. It was much better than that. It was just a phenomenal fight, phenomenal to watch, to witness and see these two guys, what they did, bearing their soul and Daniel getting off the floor and canvas and coming back how he did. It swung both ways to fight, and it was just a.
Don Charles is speaking with strong belief and pride here, saying Wardley has shut down all the doubt and quit talk after the kind of performance he has shown. He frames it like a turning point in his career, where criticism no longer sticks because of what he has endured and proven in the ring. The message is that Wardley has earned respect the hard way, and now carries momentum and belief behind him. But in the background, that same toughness also raises concern, because the more wars he goes through, the higher the physical cost becomes at heavyweight level.
Nobody could ever question this young man again. Yeah? All that quitting nonsense, nobody will ever question him again.
Two-time heavyweight champion of the world under you.
It sounds good, doesn't it?
It does.
There's more to come. There's more to come. We were in there with a very dangerous fighter in the name of Fabio Wardley. He should be proud of himself.
Fraser Clark calls Wardley a warrior, highlighting the sheer brutality and entertainment value of his fights rather than pure technical skill. He admits it wasn't the most polished boxing display, but emphasizes the heart, toughness, and willingness to trade under pressure. Clark also points out that Wardley learned from being knocked down and showed improvement in how he adjusted during the fight. However, this kind of praise also underlines the risk, because being involved in repeated wars like this builds damage over time, especially when facing someone like Daniel Dubois who can exploit every mistake with heavy shots.
I said he would come out faster, yeah, but Daniel recovered well. He's learned. He's learned from his knockdowns before. He's learned a lot, you know what I mean? So, yeah, he's done well, Fabio.
Dominic Ingley describes the fight as one of the best he has ever seen, praising Wardley's toughness and refusal to quit even when he looked exhausted and hurt. He highlights how both fighters had to dig deep, with Wardley continuing to come back despite being under serious pressure. It was a battle of survival as much as skill, and that is exactly what made it memorable. But beneath the praise, there's also a warning, because fights like this push athletes to their physical limits, and repeating that level of punishment against a puncher like Dubois can be extremely dangerous.
Tell you what, it's one of the best fights I've ever seen. One of the best fights. Fair play to Fabio Wardley. What a hard man he is. He didn't want to quit, his corner didn't pull him out. And Daniel Dubois kept his composure. He kept his composure, stuck to the plan. He started to get a bit tired himself. He realised that Wardley has still got something in the tank. He kept pulling it out of the bag. He looked dead on his feet. But what a fight that was.
Daniel Dubois reflects on the fight as a moment where he had to wake up and dig deep into a dark place mentally to come through. He talks about the reality of heavyweight boxing, where survival depends on resilience, toughness, and the ability to push through pain under extreme pressure. This mindset shows why he is so dangerous in rematches, because he doesn't just rely on skill, he embraces the chaos and suffering. For Wardley, that means facing an opponent who is mentally prepared for another war, and physically capable of going even harder the second time around.
Yeah, I needed that slap just to wake up, stay in reality, it's just not slip. I got to dig deep. And as a warrior, you have to dig deep, because you've got to go to that dark place and come out on top.
David Adeli gives a detailed tactical read, explaining how Wardley's confidence wasn't just shaken by being hurt, but by how Dubois controlled exchanges with the jab. He highlights that every time Wardley threw his right hand, Dubois was already answering cleanly, slowly breaking him down round by round. That kind of consistent counter work builds pressure mentally as much as physically, because it takes away belief over time. The key takeaway is that Wardley was being solved mid-fight, and that raises a serious concern going into a rematch where Dubois will already know exactly how to neutralize his biggest weapons.
I don't think he fought old demons when he got dropped. I think he started to think old demons when he started to think his things weren't working. But you know what was giving Daniel confidence? He kept landing a jab. Every time Wardley threw a right hand, Dubois would stick a jab and it would touch his target. That there was giving Dubois hope that, okay, then I can stand in front of my target and I can land with a jab. And he knew he was softening up Wardley with a jab as the round.
David Hay calls it one of the most entertaining heavyweight fights he has ever seen, praising the constant back and forth action, heart, and brutality from both men. He describes it as the kind of fight fans pay to watch because it delivers chaos, drama, and real danger from start to finish. While it is framed as a classic, that level of violence also tells another story. These are not clean technical rounds, they are damaging exchanges that leave a mark on both fighters. A rematch means going back into that same fire, where excitement and punishment go hand in hand at elite heavyweight level.
I've never seen a heavyweight fight that captivating, that entertaining, round after round, backwards and forwards. The heart on these guys, the balls, the bravery. That's what you want to pay. That's what you want to. We hope every time we tune in for a heavyweight championship, you're getting that type of energy. They both gave everything they had. I could watch that 10.
Frank Warren keeps it grounded, pointing out that the rematch clause exists but nothing is guaranteed yet, depending on how the heavyweight landscape develops. He makes it clear that decisions will come after assessing options and timing, rather than rushing straight into another war. That uncertainty matters, because it shows even at the promotional level there is awareness of how dangerous the first fight was. The focus is not just excitement, but also planning what makes sense next, especially when both fighters have already been through a physically draining battle that cannot be repeated too often.
Well, there is a rematch clause, so we'll see what happens.
If they decide to pass it for now.
We'll see what pans out in the next few months with all these various heavyweight fights that are happening, and that'll determine.
Don Charles draws a comparison to Anthony Joshua's rematch situation, emphasizing that exercising a rematch clause is a serious decision, not something to rush into. He highlights that Dubois is coming off a brutal fight and deserves time to recover, which adds weight to the idea that both fighters need proper reflection before jumping back in. Their message is clear: these are heavyweight wars with real consequences, and while the performance was impressive, the physical toll is significant. That's why the rematch discussion carries both excitement and caution at the same time.
Anthony Joshua had a rematch clause when he fought Daniel. That's up to them. If they want to exercise it, like I said, it's too premature. Let's go and digest this win. Let Daniel go and have some rest. Remember, that's him coming off the back of a loss, a stoppage loss, and to pull out that sort of performance.
Buddy McGirt breaks down the fight by pointing out how the early knockdown completely changed Wardley's approach, forcing him to abandon structure and rely almost entirely on his right hand. He criticizes the lack of jab, defense, and variety, suggesting the game plan collapsed under pressure. Despite that, he still acknowledges the heart and determination Wardley showed in surviving and fighting through adversity. That's why he supports the idea of a rematch, because their competitive fire is clearly there. But the concern remains: if the same technical mistakes repeat, Dubois will be ready to capitalize even more ruthlessly next time.
Hell of a fight. I think the worst thing that happened was that knockdown in the first round. After that, Wardley was just looking for that right hand. No jabs, no defense, no left hook. Sorry, meat and chicken. You know what I mean? But it was a hell of a fight. He showed the heart of a champion, and I think there should be a rematch.
Derek Chisora is brutally honest here, saying Wardley looked completely unprepared for a high-level boxing exchange. He highlights the absence of fundamentals like the jab, movement, and structured combinations, pointing out that Wardley was essentially chasing power shots with no real setup. In his view, it looked like a fighter relying purely on toughness rather than training and strategy. While that aggression makes for exciting fights, it becomes a major weakness against an elite puncher like Daniel Dubois, who can break down predictable patterns quickly and punish repeated technical errors without hesitation.
Fabio was not ready for boxing. You don't jab, nothing, looking for power shots. It's like he didn't train. He was busy commentating. Little bastard. He was supposed to fucking train in the gym. Dude, how many jabs did Fabio chuck? Less jabs. He didn't chuck no jabs. He didn't do anything with him.
What we've seen across all these reactions is clear: Wardley's biggest strength is his toughness, but that same toughness is also dragging him into dangerous territory. Experts keep pointing out the same issues: no jab consistency, falling into wars, and taking unnecessary punishment against elite power like Daniel Dubois. The question now is whether a rematch is bravery or a risk too far. Can Wardley actually fix these flaws in time, or is Dubois simply too sharp and too powerful at this level? If you enjoyed this breakdown, like the video, subscribe for more boxing analysis, and drop your prediction for the rematch below.